Underworld Blood Wars should have been called Underworld, Oh God, Please No More, because that was the general sentiment echoing throughout this movie. So let me just first preface this with I have only seen the first Underworld when I was like 5 years old, and I think I saw the second one. And that was pretty much it. I did a little bit of research, but I decided to just go straight down this hill on my tricycle with no helmet, pretty much. So, also, I want to also say that uh, I didn't know that Kate Beckinsale was in the hospital when I decided on watching this movie and talking about it. But just to let you know, Kate, if you're out there, if you're watching, I love you, and I hope you get better because I did not know anything about that. Kate, I love Kate Beckinsale. She was the first time I started like noticing women and fellas. You know what I mean? But anyway, let, let's just talk about the bad. So pretty much this movie, like I said in the beginning, is just constantly reminding you that it's an underworld movie and the franchise is pretty much dead. It starts off by saying, like the very first words are Kate Beckinsale saying, "I have lived beyond my time," or something, or long beyond my time, or something like that. And that is pretty much how the character acts the entire time. She just acts like, "Oh, my time is over. Like, it's done. Like this doesn't really matter." And her performance the whole time is just like she's so bored, and she just puts no effort in whatsoever. It just seems like they called her one day and she was like, "Oh my god, we're still doing this underworld thing, guys. Hey man, if it's a paycheck, I'll show up and do the scenes, whatever. But oh my god, I cannot believe this is still going on." So there was that. Her performance wasn't that great. There were these flashbacks in the movie that were pretty much like you had to know what was happening in the flashbacks for the movie to be coherent, and the flashbacks were just completely incoherent. Like they did the thing where like you lick the blood or something, you like lick someone's blood and you could like tell the memories, you could see the memories of that person, and they relied on that like a lot instead of like actually showing us stuff. They just did that over and over again, where it was just like quick cuts of like things happening and you're supposed to tie that together. So that was pretty bad. The villain is not scary at all. The villain is just, he's had potential to be a really good villain, I think, but he's not that threatening. And the way they introduced him was so bad. It was like they're just like talking about him. They're like, "Oh, there's this guy. His name is Marius, and he's unifying the lycan because that's never been done before for some reason," and that's it. Um, but there's more to that, but I'll get to that later. Um, there was this thing called something else. There was this thing called the Sacred World that just got, like, they just introduced that in this movie, and it makes no sense, and the rules aren't explained whatsoever, and it's just like they used it to explain some stuff that happened in the movie, and it just comes from like nowhere. It's never been mentioned before, and it just pops up like really conveniently. And I think they might have had plans to go more into it with the movie following this, and I don't know if they're making another one. I think there were plans to, but I'm not sure if that'll ever happen. But like maybe the Sacred World was like a thing they were setting up for the next movie, because it does end on a cliffhanger. So maybe, but other than if not, it was just so weird and out of nowhere. Um, that's pretty much it. And uh, by the way, with the Kate Beckinsale thing, like just talking about how her time is over, they're like explaining the conflict to her, like her friend David is, and she's like he's like, oh, the lycans, they're attacking again, and she's just like gives him a look like, again, and then he's like, no, 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 it's different this time, and yeah, I mean, that's that's pretty much it. That's pretty much that. So let's just do the summary. So pretty much it starts with that line I was talking about where it's like I have lived long past my time. Um, so Kate Beckinsale is like on a motorcycle and there's a motorcycle chase. And these guys are following her, and later you find out they're lycans, and they're not that threatening. They're only like four or five of them, and she just like beats the shit out of them basically. But she almost didn't, and she got saved by her friend David, and David is important. He's like this vampire, and he shows up, and then he tells her about the villain, like I was talking about earlier. He's like, "Oh, Marius, blah blah blah," and they find out from one of the guys that attacked Kate Beckinsale that they're all looking for her daughter, and her daughter is like half vampire, half lycan, pure blood or something. She's basically like a god. Like she's super powerful, but she's like just a kid, and but her blood can like basically turn you immortal if you get the blood. So each side is kind of looking for her daughter, and Kate Beckinsale doesn't even know where she is. It was like in the last movie that like she sent her away and she doesn't know where she is. Um, anyway, so they're looking for her daughter. She doesn't even know where, but they're trying to get information on where she is through Kate Beckinsale, but Kate Beckinsale doesn't know where she is either. So anyway, her and David, they keep going. They keep going. Um, David got hit by like a bullet that looked like a tiny like cupcake like drilling through his body or something, and they cut it out. That was that. Then there's this. It cuts to this vampire coven with this other vampire lady called Samira, and she's actually a really good character. But anyway, so she is trying to convince this old guy to get Kate Beckinsale back into the coven to train new death dealers, because she's like legendary for being like one of the best, most badass, most fierce, or whatever. So they want her to like train them, but she has to convince the vampire council to like let her back, because Kate Beckinsale has done like killed elders and killed a bunch of important vampires. So they do that. They convince them to bring Kate Beckinsale back, and then this party goes out, tells them about it. They're like, "What the fuck? I don't believe that." And they're like, "Nah, it's true." So she goes back to the coven. I guess her motivation for that is just like sanctuary, and she's being called, and she has nothing else to do, so she just does that, I guess. So she goes back, she starts training people. Starts training the new death dealers and the or yeah, the death dealers, and they are all the ones she's training look so like limpy and weak and scrawny, and they just look like the most like unnamed characters ever. So she's training them, and then there's this guy that's like one of the best there. He's like one of the strong. He's not that powerful, but he's one of the strongest death dealers at that coven, and he's in cahoots with Samira, the evil vampire lady on the council, and they're like lovers, and he fights her in the ring, like hand-to-hand combat, to like show the other death dealers how it's done, and that fight is pretty cool. I mean, Kate Beckinsale is just way stronger than him though, so she pretty much beats his ass. And then he has this like dagger. He wasn't playing fair. He like slashed her on the hand in the middle of the fight, but she just keeps beating his ass. But then it turns out that the knife was like poisoned with nightshade, so it paralyzed her, and she's like on the floor, like pretty much like she can't move. She's like completely stun locked. Like she's conscious, but she just can't move. And then Samira comes in, and she's like, "Do what you came here to do. You have your orders." To the beta cuck guy that she's like in cahoots with. And then the beta cuck guy takes the gun with like the UV bullets, and it looks like he's about to kill Kate Beckinsale. But then he just kills like all the death dealers in the room, like all the trainees. Like there were like 30 of them, and he just kills all of them for no reason, pretty much. It was supposed to be like this big twist, and like because their goal was to get Kate Beckinsale just so that strong evil vampire lady Samira could take her blood, because Kate Beckinsale has like pure blood, pure vampire blood or something. So, but like he killed all those vampire trainees, death dealers, for no reason. Like the entire coven already hates Kate Beckinsale, and they could have just like tricked her, because they pinned the deaths of all those people on Kate Beckinsale. So the council like turned against her, but like they were already against her. There was like no reason to like kill all those vampires. That was on their side. It didn't make any sense. But anyway, so they have Kate Beckinsale, and they're like draining her of her blood, and then David comes in and like saves her along with the old guy, because they have like this secret passage into their chamber where she's being held. So they do that, they save her, and then the old guy sticks behind because he has to fight Samira and the beta cuck, and so he's fighting them, and he's like, "Go while you still can." He's kind of like winning, he's beating their ass, but he gets distracted and like shouts out like, "Go, just go." And then he gets like stabbed, like in a pretty cool way, like a stab around like the back by Samira into his chest. It was pretty cool. But anyway, the old guy dies, which was David's dad, and Samira's like, "Okay, either you die here with grace," because Kate Beckinsale is completely knocked out. Like they took a bunch of her blood, and David's got her like his arms, and they're like, you could either die here with some honor or go in the sun and die. So he just goes in the sun, and it turns out that Kate Beckinsale and David's character are immune to the sun. I guess that was in like a previous movie where she like drank a blood strain or something. Um, but yeah, they're immune to the sun somehow. Samira's like, holy shit, they're immune to the sun. That's crazy. Um, I did not see that coming. Is basically her reaction. So they leave, they get away, and then they're like, oh no, we gotta go to this stronghold in the north. There's like this other coven of vampires that everybody thinks is fake, but it's actually real. And it's like this Nordic fortress of like peaceful vampires that wear white instead of black. So they go there, um, and there's this vampire there, this other strong vampire lady there that can like phase walk, like she can like shift, like teleport basically, but it's kind of like a cool teleport. It's like she like dissolves, and like she's pretty much like on the other side of the room after she comes back together, which was kind of cool, honestly. And then they're talking about how like David is like actually a pureblood or something. It didn't really make a lot of sense, because I didn't watch like the previous movies, but apparently he's like a pureblood, and he's like the rightful heir to that original coven that where the council and Samira was on and all that stuff. So he drinks his mom's blood that she left him in a ring, and sees some memories, and it's all pretty vague and incoherent most of the time, honestly. At least it was for me when I was watching that particular part. So that happened, and then the werewolf army and Marius, the big baddie, finds out that Kate Beckinsale and David are there, but he's after Kate Beckinsale, and he attacks that fortress, and the fight is so like pathetic. Like the entire time, the threat is like the army of lycans, right? But the lycans are never like seen as threatening at all. Like we keep getting told that like, oh, there's a lot of them, and like they've never been able to unify like this before, but they're just constantly like getting wrecked. They are never threatening. There's just yeah, I mean, so they attack, they kill a few people, and Marius fights Kate Beckinsale, and it's a really cool fight, actually. That was one of the highlights of the movie. So they fight, and Marius has this girlfriend that was in the original search party that went to go search for Kate Beckinsale in the beginning, and his girlfriend just like stabbed Kate Beckinsale in the back on the ice of at the bottom of this fortress. They were like skidding around on ice and like fighting. So she stabs Kate Beckinsale in the back, and the ice is breaking. She tastes Kate Beckinsale's blood for the memories, because they're still trying to find Kate Beckinsale's daughter. You know, the immortal god blood kind of thing. And then they find out that Kate Beckinsale doesn't know where her daughter is. So he's like really pissed. He was holding off the attack on the final vampire fortress until he had that blood, but now he has no idea where it is. And Kate Beckinsale just kind of like the ice cracks, and she like slips under, and it looks like she kind of dies. By the way, I missed the whole part with the sacred world. So go back to the fortress and like the phasing lady. There's this process where they're like mummifying the vampires, and they're like hanging them by the ceiling, kind of like a spider would like dangle their prey or something, and they're completely wrapped in gauze, and they just very vaguely say like they are becoming. The path to the sacred world is through the water. They are in the becoming, and like that's pretty much all they say about it. So Kate Beckinsale remembers that when she slips through the ice into the water, and I mean, all the characters think she's dead, pretty much. So after that, I guess Marius like decided to attack the fortress without the blood. He figures his army of lycans is like enough to attack the fortress and win and wipe out the vampires once and for all, pretty much. So he does that. He uses his vampire girlfriend to like get in. Samira finds out that, or she already knew that that vampire girlfriend was like betraying them, so that was a twist, and she cut her throat. And Samira tries to take over the council, and then David is there, and he's like, "No, I'm actually pureblood heir to this council. Like I should be the ruler." And then everybody like believes him because he has some blood and he shows them memories. But they accept him pretty much. And the beta cuck turns on Samira, and they lock up Samira. And then the lycans attack. So the lycans are there, like wreaking havoc, pretty much. And then, like, it's actually a pretty cool fight. Like, there are dudes just like busting in through this fortress hallway with like UV bombs and UV guns and stuff, and they're bursting holes through the walls, and like sun rays are coming in and burning vampires and stuff. But then Marius, the villain leader of the lycans, sees that David isn't affected by the sunlight, and they just start like shooting at each other, and they just keep shooting with their machine guns. It's like that gif of like the people shooting each other and like nothing is happening. So they do that for like 10 seconds. They just shoot at each other, and like bullets are going through them. Like they're going, one guy's going up the stairs, one guy's going down, and it's just, it was kind of cool, but so like silly. So that happened, and then Kate Beckinsale shows up, but she's like reborn or something. She like, you went to the sacred world after she died, and she was like reborn, kind of like Gandalf. It was pretty much a Gandalf situation. And like her hair color changed too. There was like streaks of blonde in her hair. And she was back, and now she can like teleport and shit around. So Kate Beckinsale is pretty much the most overpowered person in this universe, because she was already like overpowered to begin with, and now she's just like teleporting around. And she fights with Marius. It's kind of a cool, it's not as cool as the ice fight, but it's alright. She gets back in the cage where they paralyzed her and killed all those vampires. And she fights him, and pretty much wrecks him, and she eventually hits him with like a Mortal Kombat style, like rips his backbone like right out of him. Like she just digs her hand like into his back and just rips out his backbone. And by the way, um she licked his blood, by the way, or like she was shooting him and some of the blood got in her mouth, and she was able to remember that she saw his memories, and she saw that he was the one, he like killed Michael, which was her love interest from the old movies. And I'm pretty sure Michael was like a major character, and this is the first the audience hearing about it. And it it was so they just like killed him off screen basically and showed it in this flashback through the blood. It, instead of like just showing that in the beginning or giving the villain like a good scene, uh instead of just like talking about this random guy that's doing stuff, instead of giving him a good intro scene, they just did that. They just made that like the twist or something, because he's kind of like a hybrid lycan, and so was Michael, the old love interest. So Michael's dead off screen, by the way, and they kill this guy, and then David cuts off his head and like shows the like, and he's like, "Yeah, I have your leader's head. Get the fuck out of here." And all the other lycans are like, "Oh, well, can't argue with that," and they just like leave pretty much. And what else? Oh yeah, by the way, David fought Samira, and she was so distracted by power, her newfound power, because she drank Kate Beckinsale's blood that she harvested from her earlier, and she found out that she can live in the sun, and she was just like startled by that for a second because she was so like obsessed with power. It was kind of like one of her main character traits, and David just took that and just like stabbed her in the back of the head, like the sword came through her mouth. It was pretty cool. But then that was pretty much it. Like Kate Beckinsale had like this thing where she was talking about like how this fortress has stood 1,000 years and now it's gonna stand for 1,000 more years. Like the franchise, like we're going like 1,000 more years, baby. And there's like a thing where I think she's in like the sacred world, and I think her daughter shows up, and that was supposed to be like the cliffhanger. And it's been 8 years so far, so we don't know what happens after that. So yeah, that was pretty much the entire movie. I don't know. I don't think I missed anything. So yeah, the compliments I could give it is the action actually wasn't that bad. Like sometimes it was a little boring, but for the most part, it was pretty exciting and cool and fun to watch. Especially that fight they had on the ice. Kate Beckinsale like had this sword, and she was like skidding around the ice, like sliding with it cutting through, and she used it to like balance it. There were some pretty good scenes in there. That's what I'll say about it. It was definitely an entertaining movie. So I'll definitely give it that. And the the acting by that vampire lady Samira, she was amazing. Is also what I'll say. She played her role very well. She she was like actually way better than Kate Beckinsale in this movie. Because like I said in the beginning, Kate Beckinsale's performance, like it was fine, but it just kind of felt like she showed up and that was all she did. But let me think. Is there anything else? Uh, I guess my last compliment would be it wasn't like a terrible movie. It wasn't like, I mean, there was like a couple stupid, like incoherent parts about it, but it wasn't terrible, is what I'll say. But yeah, I think that's it. I think that's everything. I think I covered everything well. You guys have anything you want me to watch, you just let me know, and I will grab my mining gear, and I will just get in that mine shaft. I will press the button, and I will just see what I find down there, and I will radio in. So, yeah, thanks.